So we're about to move into another section. I have one more question. How many of y'all had to grow up without a father in the home? How did that make y'all feel?
Bad.
Sad.
I'll be like that. I didn't even care.
So in reverse, if you didn't have one in the home, how is that going to relate to you when you get older and you might have kids or whatnot? What you gonna do differently than that?
I'm gonna take care of my kids. I ain't gonna be there. It's better than what you're done.
So next we got a presenter from New Father, David Bates, New Young Fathers, David Bates, and he's gonna come speak to y'all about the role of males in relationships and in society, as well as fatherhood. So man, y'all really pay attention to this, and then I'm gonna come back and kick it with y'all with a little story. I like telling stories. All right. I know the stories are good.
Just to give you a little background on New Young Fathers. New Young Fathers started out as a conversation between our CEO, who at that time was a part-time law student, and his uncle, who at that time was a part-time computer science student. And the conversation started over a domestic violence situation where there was a young man over on the East Coast who was a mechanic that got child support orders in the mail. And his response to receiving these child support orders was he went, got a gun, tried to kill both of his children's mother, one who he did kill, and the other one, she survived, and then he killed himself. And so the conversation started with asking the question of what if we were able to get information out to young fathers that would allow them to have some alternatives to trying to take the lives of the mothers, because in that situation where he was successful in killing the mother and then he killed himself, he lost his mother. So the child now has no mother or father. And the other mother who didn't die, she has the scars of the fact that the man who fathered my child tried to kill me and then killed himself, and now I'm left alone to care for this child. And that conversation, that tragedy happened in 2005. And New Young Fathers we started the company in 2009. But it started from a conversation 4 years ago. And what Andre did, who's our CEO, he began to talk to different people that he knew that had different types of expertise, and then he began to bring us together under this idea of newyoungfathers.com. That's the name of the organization. What we strive to do is we strive to take young men 25 and under and try to make them responsible fathers. Right now we're working on a program where we're going to be dealing with young fathers that are in the system, so to speak, either juvenile or fresh out of prison, that are young, where we can try to mentor them into becoming young fathers and being successful fathers. It was a unique thing that when we asked the question, how many in the room raised their hand? Can we all raise our hands again? How many in the room grew up without a father in the home? I'm also, if you notice, I'm also raising my hand. My father was killed when I was 11 years old. And when that happened to me personally, it kind of changed everything that I thought, because I no longer had the guidance that I needed. And so what happened was other people began to sprinkle thought processes on me that kind of changed my focus. And it redirected me from the things that my father was telling me. My father was telling me, go to school, get an education, do these different things. And other people told me, you know, man, you got to be a hustler. You know, you're a gangster. You know, you got to be this, you got to be that. And then I began, because I didn't have anybody to counteract those voices, I began to live out what people were telling me the most. And so I personally got in trouble. So for anybody in the room that has the mindset of wanting to be a hustler, it all sounds good, but it's really an illusion. And it's not part of being a responsible man. It's not even in the process at all. So when you start talking about being responsible and being a man, the first thing you want to start looking at is you want to start looking at, what do I need? What is one thing that everybody needs in order to become responsible?
A positive figure in their life.
Positive figure.
Respect.
Respect. Anybody else?
Discipline.
Discipline. You was catching the scratch. Don't move too fast, I might call on you. But when you say a positive figure, what is that positive figure going to offer you that you currently don't have? What are some of the key things that you think a positive figure is going to offer you?
Like telling you to go to school, do what you got to do for your education.
So information. Knowledge is key to you becoming a responsible father. Knowledge is key to you becoming a responsible man. Name me somebody that you know that don't know anything that can tell you anything.
One of my neighbor's friends, he was being God read.
Mm-hmm.
He's the smartest person I know. When they died last year.
Right. He didn't know how to read, but I said, name me somebody that doesn't know anything that can tell you anything. Just because you don't know how to read doesn't mean that you are unable to tell somebody something.
He quit school in fifth grade.
Okay.
He didn't know nothing.
Did he have life experience?
Yes.
And what did he teach you from?
He taught me that, like, basically, you only get one life, so you want to get your education and don't do what I do.
Okay.
Make something good of your life.
So his example gave you some thought process into doing something different. And so he told you, he kind of gave you his story and where he was and how he ultimately, you know, he wanted to redirect you in a new direction, right?
Yeah.
So he taught you something. But when you're looking at knowledge, you know, how many people in here are, what's the grade level that's in the room right now? You're in the 10th, 11th? What grade you in, young man?
8.
You're in the 8th? What grade? Huh? 8th. Okay, so we got roughly middle school, high school. How many people in here want to be a father or a mother? Because I see we have some ladies in the room as well. I mean, do you ultimately want to be a father at some point?
Older.
When you get older? Okay.
I just gonna give me more responsibility.
All right. What? Yeah. Okay. So you want to wait? That's good news. That's great news. Because see, part of being a responsible man is knowing when it's time to get into activities that would be for a responsible man. One of the things that you need to be in order to say that you're a responsible man is you need to have an income. And hustling is typically not an income because it goes up and down, it fluctuates. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. So that wouldn't be something that you want to do when you're talking about you trying to be a responsible man. You want to be able to give your children some guidance. You know, we see more and more and more and more and more people in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade having babies. What does that do when you're in the 8th, 9th, 10th, or 11th grade and you just produced a child? I am right now in college myself. And I'm about to turn 36 years old because I had a baby when I was 18. And I had to forego college and all of those fun experiences that those that are actually in college right now are experiencing and have had the pleasure of experiencing, and go straight into trying to figure out a way to make some money to take care of this child that I just brought into the world. Number one, I didn't have the fatherly influence to give me the guidance that I needed, so what was I doing? I was relying on things that my friends had told me who also had been young fathers. So how much good information was I actually receiving in that process?
Really done.
So, you know, I made some mistakes then, right?
Yeah.
The one thing about being able to hear a person who's already made some mistakes that can be extremely beneficial to you is that if you know somebody's made a mistake and they're telling you that they made a mistake, don't always think that you have to make the exact same mistake that they made in order for you to get the experience. You don't have to go through being, if you're not already a father, you don't have to become a new young father in order to understand what it is to be a young father. You can go talk to some of the people that you know that already have children, and they can tell you about their struggles. They can tell you about their pains. They can tell you about, you know, the hardship they've experienced. You already heard Mr. Rosewood telling you about, man, Mom, sometimes I want to go take my child. I had those experiences too in the beginning. You know, there was a lot of disagreement, a lot of argument. You know why there was disagreement and there was argument? Because I was not mature.
I wasn't ready.
And she wasn't mature, and we weren't ready. But we now had this responsibility that we had to handle, we had to take care of. How many in here think that how many people in here think that they're ready to have children? You were going to say something, sir?
Yeah. Me personally, I don't want to have kids until I know I'm able to support the kid and do what it needs to make it in life.
Okay. That's a wonderful thought process. So you want to go through trying to make it through college. Why? Because you know that you'll be having something that can be substantial, that can help you earn a living. You know, they say people who go to college typically earn $1 million more a year than a person who doesn't. I mean, yes, sir.
I just wanted to add something. You had asked who in here thinks they're ready to have a child. Usually, no one's going to say yes.
That's true.
Well, there comes with responsibility. If you're going to have sex like that, you got to be responsible about that too.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Think about that, because that's the result, you know what I'm saying, of you having a responsibility is having a child.
Absolutely. And we were going to come back to that point. But responsibility is everything. Discipline. You have people that, you know, don't get caught up in a moment, in a sensational series of events that ultimately produce children. What happened? We was after school, 3 to 6. Wasn't nobody around. We started kissing. We went from kissing to rubbing. We went from rubbing to, and you know the process. You know the phase. So we don't have to go all the way there. But as you're looking at those things happening, at what point do you draw a line? When would you draw the line?
What you mean, bro? When would I stop?
Yeah, when would you draw the line?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't draw the line? So then you saying you ready to have a baby.
I ain't ready to have a baby.
But if you don't have a line that you will stop at, then you're ready. Because the reality is, if I don't have a line, then whatever happens whatever the end result is, I'm saying that I'm ready for it. So you gotta start beginning to establish discipline in your life that you have a line. Yes, sir.
But like if you ask any of us right now, if it was like we all chilling there, some fifis come up.
What's a fifi?
It's a female.
A female is a fifi.
I got you. We all chilling.
No, that's not a new. I'm gonna tell you something about what a fifi is, but go ahead.
We all chilling, and then a whole bunch of girls come over, and we all having a little session. And you know, I bet you like any of us right now, we not gonna stop to have no point to stop.
Where did you hear that term at?
What?
Fifi.
Oh, I use that thing.
That's your term? Do you know that's a prison term?
Wait.
I'm not being funny, but do you know that that's a prison term? And that term is a term that men use who can't get a woman. They utilize different objects, and they call the objects to reach climax a fifi.
I use that for females, you know.
How many of the men that are in the room? How many men open doors when they see a woman about to enter a door? You do it sometimes. Have you noticed when you do that how surprised a woman is? But you shouldn't just open the door for a bad woman. You should open the door for any woman that's coming if you're standing at the door. Why? Because it shows that you have respect for yourself, number one. You have respect for her as being a woman who has the ability to bring life into the world, number two. You know, you heard in that video talking about chivalry being dead as it was playing. He talked about chivalry being dead, but she ended up in my bed. You were going to say something, sir? Damn.
How is opening a door for a woman respect for me?
Because every woman produces the male child. A man can't be born without a woman. So when you see any woman that you open the door for her, you're showing respect for your mother. Why? Because some other day, your mother may be walking to a door and you hope that a man standing at that door would open the door for her. Now, if you don't open doors for your mother, if the door is not being opened for your mother, then that's kind of a process that destroys all the mothers. So as you're setting something up, and like I go on dates with my daughter. My daughter's 17 years old, and she's about to graduate from high school. And I take her on dates. And people be like, man, that's kind of strange. You take your daughter on dates. I say, no, I take my daughter on dates because I want her to understand how she should be treated if she's going to be entertained by a man. So if he ain't opening the door for you to start the date out, the first thing you should do is turn around and walk back to the door because he already done lost. Why? Because I'm opening the door for my daughter. When she get in the car and when she get out the car. When we get up to the door, I open the door again. And so all the way through the process, every time there's a door, she don't have to touch it.
But like some,
pull
like,
the chair out and stuff.
like some
Yeah.
kids, like some people, they too hard to do that or something.
What is hard?
Gangster.
What's a gangster? Name me a gangster that you know that's alive. I mean, because even when we look at the quote-unquote artists that we see on television, the rappers that claim to be gangsters, but I'm just saying those guys, they talk about being gangsters, but when you find out and you hear more and more the rappers talking about, I'm just talking, you know, even Eminem, he has a song where he got the guy Stan, and he talks about all the crazy stuff that he talks about in his song, and then at the end he says, Stan, I'm just tripping, I'm just talking, this is just stuff I'm just saying. But there's always somebody that can relate to the stuff that you're just saying, even if what you're saying is fictitious. So even though somebody professes, you have a lot of people that profess to be gangsters, but like I look at the movies and I hear people talk about gangsters, I've yet to see a major gangster that you hear on television that didn't tell on people when they got in trouble. You going to say something?
I don't know.
I mean, there's an exception. There's some that would you consider exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, people who claim to be, when it all boils down, they're not.
Yeah, and I know a few gangsters. When they have daughters,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, they make sure their daughters is treated right, you know, because you think you talk to anybody, man, I know a lot of, they got daughters, they treating them good. They not treating them like the little shorties they got in the crib. Right. They treating their daughter right. You know what I mean? So if you look at them, you be like, okay, like which one am I supposed to look at? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of confused too. And like I had to think about that. I pray to God, don't give me no daughter, because I don't want no young man. I know how we think. Right. And I know what I used to do. You know what I mean? So I'm like, man, God, please don't give me no daughter. And if I do have a daughter, like, man, I'm going to have to teach her not to be like the young ladies that, you know what I'm saying, that I used to do. You feel me? Because, you know, you don't want your daughter growing up like that. You know, you don't want your daughter to be like,
I was all for it.
Right. And so, like, and that's me, like, if I have a daughter, I'm trying to learn from somebody else. Like, look, how like, because you think, how many of y'all thought, if y'all have a daughter, y'all gonna lock her up?
You would like to think that.
Now, can I ask you, does that work? If y'all ever got locked up, what happens?
You're gonna be more villains.
Crazy.
You're gonna look to break out. I mean, I have a 17-year-old daughter,
Crazy.
and she goes to East Lansing High School. She's a beautiful young lady, and you know, I have pictures of her at my office at work, and people come by and they be like, "Man, who is that?" I'll be like, "That's my daughter." You know, you gotta make sure that people understand right away. That's my daughter. So be very careful the next thing you say after "who is that?"
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, but the reality is, how many people in here want to see your mother disrespected? He almost raised his hand. How many people want to see their mother respected? So if you want to see your mother respected, then you should also want to see the young ladies that you encounter respected. Why? Because they may not be your mother, but they're going to be somebody's mother. And you want to see mothers respected. You know, I grew up watching my mother and my father fight. And so I made a vow very early on in my life that I would never hit a woman. And that I'm about to turn 36 next Thursday. I've never hit a woman.
So, female comes to you and hit you or something, hit her like a fire, so
I've been stolen by a woman.
I ain't talking about what stuff.
She hit me with her fist, straight bam, bust my lip.
Girl hit me.
But the reality is, Think about it though. Even though she busts my lip, can she beat me? In honesty. I mean, Layla Ali, she's a bad fighter, but I still don't think that if me and her got in a one-on-one confrontation, she could win. So if she can't win, what power do I really derive from pummeling her? Because that's actually what happens when a man hits a woman, because you're stronger than her.
Yeah, watch out for that, right?
Right, left. I still don't think that she's going to beat me. And that's the kind of thought process that you have to have and when you're in dealing with a woman. I already know that she's not going to win a fight if we get into one where it's a physical confrontation. Therefore, why would I fight her? I mean, I'm a type of person, if I was into a scuffle, I want it to be a contest so that I can actually feel good about a victory. There's never a time when you're going to fight a woman where you're going to feel good about the victory. Because then, if that's your girlfriend, you're going to be looking like, man, my baby lip busted. Oh, my man. And these are all things about not being responsible. But you want to know one of the key things that you have to have as a male trying to become a man in a male-female relationship? You have to continuously add knowledge to yourself. I'm not saying that just the school knowledge, but I'm saying you have to continuously learn. Because women are continuously learning. And typically the reason why men end up in fights with women is because they don't have enough knowledge to combat her verbal assault. And so at a certain point, the only thing that I can do to show you that I'm bigger, stronger, and badder than you is fight you. That's my victory. Now, we all talked about it. You talked about how many people in here can out-talk their girlfriend. So, brother said he can.
No,
okay. Yes, sir.
You know, as young people, you know, you're going to have a lot of adversity and things happen where people don't always either talk to you the right way or treat you the right way. But the next thing that happens is the most important thing happens. It says, what do you do next when that thing happens? And the way that you can think about, you can learn from it is, you can separate yourself from that situation. Somebody is not treating you the right way, where they put their hands on you, like you're in a relationship, they put your hands on you, or they're talking to you a certain way. You can say, hey, I'm just letting you know that's not how I roll, that's not, and I'm done. I'm done with you. You know, and then you can choose not to be around that person. You know, other people might say some stuff, oh man, you let her hit you like that, this or that.
Right.
But it comes down, you say, yeah, it happened one time.
Right.
It didn't continue to happen.
That's right.
And then you don't surround yourself with people like that. You say, hey, it's a certain level how I'm going to treat people, and I want people to be treated by me and to treat me, and it's not going down under that.
That's right.
It's staying above that. Like, say, the people you hang around with, they got to be where you at or going higher, not going lower, because they're going to take you down. You got to be around people that's going to take you up. And if people around you that's not doing right or something happens, the first thing you do is get out of that situation. You know, you send them a signal, and anybody else that's around you a signal that's saying, hey, if you trying to even do any of this stuff around me, I'm not having it.
That's right. And those are key points. You know, you have to learn how to be a leader. Most people that profess leadership don't understand that being a good follower is also part of being a leader. Now you might ask the question, how can you be a follower and be a leader? Because the best followers also can become the best leader. Why? Because they listen. Whenever you're following somebody, that means you're listening to what it is that they're telling you. You're listening to the guidance. That doesn't mean that you fall victim to somebody just telling you to do anything. But in order to lead, you have to follow somebody first to see what it is to be a leader. Great organizations have strong bodies that ultimately produce strong leader after leader after leader. That's why you don't see those organizations fall. Why? Because they are producing a strong body, a strong group of followers that also ultimately will produce a strong leader. And as leaders leave, new leaders emerge. You should always be trying to find a way to become a leader. And not a leader in foolishness. It's not difficult. I mean, we live in a world where it's not difficult to find something foolish to get into. But you actually show yourself to be a greater leader when your friends say, let's go smoke weed. And you're like, man, I'm about to go home, finish my homework, and, you know, do me a little exercise and get ready for bed. Now, your friends might say, oh, man, you tripping. But when your friend is in prison doing 15 years and you are graduating from college or graduating from high school or getting ready to do whatever it is that you're doing in life, when they get out, because typically they get out, they be like, man, I wish I would have did what you did. There's 100 guys sitting in prison that wish that they could have made a different decision. I have a friend that's in prison doing natural life. And he's doing natural life in prison because he didn't do the responsible thing. He didn't shoot anybody. He didn't have a gun. The only thing that his only mistake was he got in the car. He got in the car. And he's doing natural life because everybody that was in the car, and he was a straight A student. He's from Detroit. But he got in the car. He didn't know what they were going to do when he got in the car, but he wanted to be cool. Because he wasn't considered as being cool. And so this was something that would change his image. Well, it didn't just change his image, but it changed his life. Forever. Because he's never getting out.
They charged him with the whole murder.
They charged him, they killed somebody. But they charged him with the same thing. See, and I know we look like we jumping around, but we still on the topic of being responsible men. Because part of being responsible is making right decisions when you're faced with two different decisions that would be, one of them could be detrimental and one of them be good. Yes, sir.
Also, a part of being responsible is being aware of your surroundings and your situation.
That's right.
So like he's saying right here, although he may not have committed the crime, but he has to be aware he's a black man, you know what I'm saying, and he's hanging around people who could, you know, jeopardize his life like that and what's going on around him. So you just being there in that situation almost makes you guilty.
That's
not
right.
to the fullest extent, but obviously enough in this society right now to have your life taken away like that.
You know, so you want to make conscious decisions.